We're seeing a swift reversal happening on the marketplace. The question is, are we reversing from here, or the bigger dip actually awaits us in the near future? You asked me to provide you a little bit more actionable stuff in the videos. Today, we're talking about altcoins with exact entry points, exact resistance and take profits points for yourself as well. We'll be focusing on the alts that are pumping the first. I have a very interesting metric, very interesting indicator that I actually found about them. There are a specific type of alts that are pumping the first, and I believe they are a category that you can position yourself into. And we're talking about some long leverage plays that I've just done myself just recently. Do me a favor, press the like button and let's get into today's video. Here is me showing the chart of IP just 5 days ago when it was $3.5. What we can see right now, it's at $7. It pays to follow this channel and to watch each and every video. It definitely pays. Story chart is one of the craziest charts out there. Right now I would figure out what are your entry points if you still would want to get into this asset. Is it actually worth to be holding this asset, and what type of upside is left, and who is talking already about this asset? And maybe we are at this stage where influencers are already generating the exit liquidity and maybe nothing is going to come out of this coin. And we will also figure out why it's growing currently. Story is airdropping 50 million IP coins soon, which is somewhere around $284 million. Kaito is tracking the user activity between all of the blockchains, and people who are at the top are actually people from the Story community. You can see .ip, which means that they essentially got the name address, name service inside the Story blockchain. Main reason for this is because they are farming this massive airdrop that should be coming soon. Two simple ways to actually be eligible for the airdrop. One of them is to provide liquidity for the Story ecosystem on DeFi projects on chain. This is essentially Piper, right? And you have to provide liquidity in the IP Story pair and Robbed Ethereum pair. If you would just allocate some liquidity here, you would most likely be eligible for the airdrop. It's quite interesting that for most of the chains out there, new projects, it's actually quite profitable to provide liquidity for them initially, at least before the airdrop, in order to essentially be exposed to the airdrops that will come. I would say you have to be careful with them not scamming the market and with them essentially not taking the funds. At this stage, since essentially growing, so many people are talking about it, I would say it's quite safe. On top of this, you're receiving nice yield. Right now it's somewhere around 300% APY, which means that not a lot of people are essentially providing liquidity. The other way is to participate in transactions on chain. One of them is essentially mint one of these NFTs. The price for this thing is quite cheap at this stage. Most likely if you would do something like this, you would essentially be getting the portion of this airdrop out there. The narrative of the chain is that they essentially want to bring intellectual property on chain, and this is just one of the ways to do that. It's quite interesting that mindshare often does not transfer into the price, because we can check out the chart of Berachain at this stage, and we can also check out the chart of Story. Story mindshare was only about 2.5% of the all crypto market mindshare during the time of the launch. Berachain mindshare, on the contrary, was 15.5%, which is 6 times higher. Yet, at this stage, just mindshare wise, Berachain is down 25% from the launch, and Story is up at least 3x currently. And it definitely transfers into the price. Story is pumping right now. The price of this coin is going up. Following the Story chart, unfortunately at this stage we reached the main target area. I would say that the conservative target for this project at this stage has definitely been reached, because obviously it was through the tops of this pump, right? And this level was essentially something that we had to conquer, that we had to attract anyway. The question right now is whether or not this thing would essentially be reaching higher. I do think it essentially can. This chart pattern is very nice. You might say that it's actually printing a cup and handle right here, and following the fact that it might be printing a cup and handle, general overview here might be is that we should be rejecting from this area and just printing our cup here, have a small bit of reaccumulation with people taking profits, closing some longs, repositioning somewhere, right? and essentially continue the pumpage from there. Upside right now is definitely limited. As mentioned just 5 days ago, I mentioned this coin at $3.4. So you could have watched the video, you could have invested, you could have made a 2x at least. And I have a feeling that this thing actually might continue because the narrative of the airdrop is quite strong. At the same time, a word of caution should be advised here. Ansem, who is one of the largest crypto influencers with 700,000 followers on X, he's sharing bidding Hype, Sol, BTC, IP, and Ethena. IP is a new addition. He was never talking about this one before. And guys, you have to understand the structure of the marketplace and different roles that different people essentially take in this market. The role of the influencers in the market structure is the creation of exit liquidity, which means that projects usually come to them when they want to create exit liquidity in order to exit, pretty much. So when people like Ansem, they start to talk about these type of assets with this type of following that they have, I would just advise to perform caution and just to be cautious about the whole thing. I'm not saying that you might not actually be making money on this one. I would say that most likely your upside is limited. And again, just 5 days ago, you could have watched the video, you would have a 2x at this stage. If you would be on leverage, you would essentially be making way more. And right now you would be sitting very, very comfortable with the illiquidatable leverage loan. You can essentially increase and hold this thing at least till the time of the airdrop. From the point of view of things that I'm seeing on the marketplace, I do think it might have something in the tank, but upside is definitely quite limited in comparison to the situation with this coin 5 days ago. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and watch each and every video. Push the bell notification on not to miss this type of alpha moving further. There will be much more of it. Next project is C, which is a DeFi DEX project on Sonic. The speculation currently is that this thing actually can become #1 DEX on chain, which means that it should be pumping quite nicely because other DEXs on other essentially blockchains, they have way larger market caps in comparison to the underlying coin of the chain, which in our case right here is essentially Sonic. The reason I'm sharing that is because it pumped quite nicely since the recent dip on the marketplace, and I would say it almost did not feel the recent dip, and there are reasons for this that we would essentially go through right now. We have agreed in principle to acquire Cinos.io and UDEX on Sonic Labs. A majority position 60% for a fee of $1 million USDC. Our devs will now begin working with the current team. That's very bullish. We rarely see any type of projects actually being acquired in crypto by some funds or by some reputable teams. Usually when this happens, and the way it happens is that people just copy the same software and they're not acquiring. The reason they're acquiring is because they want to take the current market share, they want to take the current customer base, and they want to take current technology. Maybe something that's being used is actually quite unique. And this is definitely a very, very nice value proposition of the company if you look into these things as a tech investor in the first place. Ecosystem is growing, DeFi DEX will always be used. The reason they are acquiring usually means that they can't replicate this in a short time. And they also keeping the current development team. Our devs will now begin working with the current team. Quite bullish. Here is the current chart of C. This DEX as well. We can see key resistance areas of the chart. We can see very, very nice double bottom and reversal pattern that we actually formed on this chart. And we can see that currently we are expanding. We have core resistance at the level of around $20 million. I would say right now is actually quite nice point for entry because we are also at the core resistance area because you can see we spent quite some time right here. You might say that on the lower time frame we actually formed a reversal pattern with 3 bottoms right here. And we also spend a bunch of time here essentially trading this asset back and forth, and we have some support right now. So it's definitely a strong support area. I'm not thinking that it should be breaking down, only if situation in the marketplace will become even more bearish. Right now is definitely a nice point for the spot entry. You actually cannot long leverage this thing in comparison to IP. IP, you definitely can long leverage on different centralized exchanges. If you don't know what type of centralized exchange to use in order to long leverage, I have linked to Bluefin in the description on each and every video. This is non-KYC exchange you can join. You don't need to upload any documents and you can safely leverage long assets right there. In my previous video where I was actually talking about Sonic ecosystem, I was already talking about this exchange and I said that there is a support about $5 million, and I said that I think this thing actually will be going there. which is exactly something that we did. We touched it, we printed 3 bottoms reversal pattern right here. We did not swipe the liquidity from this low, but we kind of don't have to do it because this thing is not available to trade on leverage. So the charts here, they're less aggressive. And since these levels, we essentially started to reverse. And if you can see, we kind of printed the cup and handle pattern as well, which is the pattern that I just love in crypto. I would say we are at the main resistance point, but we should very, very soon be breaking through it, going to this level of 20 million, because yeah, we do have resistance here, but it's a very, very small one. And the next target for this thing is essentially $50 million market cap, which is around 3x from here. We're specifically talking about the coins today that are actually doing quite nice on the reversal from the recent market dip, right? The next thing I actually wanted to show is Vana AI. Just look how this thing actually moves. It's crazy. It did not almost feel the dump, so we can check everything on the chart, right? How much it dumped since the tops? Only 13%, quite insane. And we already essentially retraced the whole move, the whole dump that just happened recently. Quite nice. If you can see on the larger scale of the chart, we are also printing the cup and handle right here. And most likely we should actually be facing resistance around the same similar areas. I would say we are facing it like right now, because here at the tops, it's just nothing. Like once we break through the current levels, we should just stably go higher from here. So this cup and handle formation is essentially playing out for the bunch of assets out there. And the reason it's playing out so well is mainly because it's just the main pattern for the previous holders to get out of the coins, for new holders to come in, and for them essentially to push the price even further. We can also see something very, very interesting. Last 3 weeks on Vana AI are actually green, which is rare. In the current market conditions, it's very rare. It's not happening in most of the projects. So this thing actually shows strength, right? And it's in the midst of the narrative on the market that AI is actually dead. Following these AI projects and following the things I actually started to learn myself, I can definitely say that AI is actually quite alive, and there is definitely an interest on this market to bid into AI projects. And at the end of the video, I will actually show you the AI project I learned myself that did 2x from yesterday. And we can also see that our AI is essentially launched on a bunch of DEXs. We can see it on Binance as well, which is great. And it's always a nice narrative because projects that are listed on Binance and exchanges like this, they definitely have certain benefits above other different projects on the marketplace out there, mainly because they're just available for trading on these platforms, and all of these users on Binance, they're at least exposed to this project. They don't have to go on chain, they don't have to go on different exchanges, so definitely they just have flows, they just have ways for the capital to inflow into the asset. Vana is an EVM compatible layer 1 blockchain that enables users to transform private financial data through the AI model that is essentially training right now. Right now, it's at $260 million in market cap. FDV is at $1 billion. Again, the reason I'm actually showing this one is because it's quite strong through the recent dip. We're specifically focusing on these type of projects. The interesting thing that is also happening that actually most of these projects, they are quite recent. They are quite new in this marketplace. This thing essentially launched at the end of January, which is a very interesting narrative from one point of view, with new stuff pumping. And I would say that like during the current market setup, there is definitely a bigger upside in new coins. Overall, some older projects that have been consolidating for a lot of time in the market, they should be seeing some, like, I would say more explosive moves, because once they would start to move, they would start to move like crazy. These things, they will just continue to pump currently, and we're talking about them because the fact that they're reversing on the drops means that there is active interest on the marketplace into getting into them. Here is CZ, learn about Vana. They have an interesting approach, a very, very interesting take by CZ, and often the things that he's bullish on, they're just pumping like crazy. And this thing actually has seen 400% increase in volume in the last 24 hours, which often transfers into price because traders, people who are looking to swing trade on the market, in the first place, they're just focusing on the projects that have high volume. The other reason why CZ is talking about the project is because it also recently received an investment from Binance, and CZ actually jumped as an advisor on board. Just think about that. CZ is an advisor to the project, which is a layer 1 with a $250 million market cap at this stage, which is actually available on leverage. Quite insane if you would ask me. Like, that's definitely low. In several months from now, we will be looking back at these prices. We would just be insane and crazy that we did not just buy enough. Again, if you're looking into alts that are pumping currently and reversing since the recent drops, Vana is definitely the one to look into because it definitely is quite strong. since the last drop, right? And we can see some levels right here. Right now it's around $9 at this stage. And we can see that we are above the current resistance, which pretty much means that we actually retested and most likely turned this level into the support. And next target for us is actually somewhere around $16, which is not that much. It's probably like 1.6, 1.7x. But again, if you're on leverage and if you're entering this thing right now, right here, you would probably actually make your position highly likely illiquidatable once we are at that levels. Then you can just take out all of the margin and you would have free exposure into this asset with CZ being the advisor, and you can hold it just pretty much for the full bull cycle. Pretty insane if you would ask me. Only available on leverage, by the way. 200 AMA also suggests that we actually have reached the bottom recently and might be bouncing just now. Here we can also see that just recently it bounced, and the expectation on this chart, yeah, like something that I was showing 16 to $17 is just a conservative target, right? More bullish is obviously going back to all-time highs, which is to somewhere around $30. And again, guys, the things that are pumping right now, a lot of them, they would be layer ones, because we're seeing certain switch back to utility, and most things that are like the closest to utility are actually layer ones. And again, the best performing narratives, not even of this cycle, of last cycle as well, were two things: layer ones and meme coins. We have a bunch of layer ones, we have a bunch of projects pumping, and if you would essentially focus on projects that are pumping currently, most of them are layer ones. IP is layer one, outperforming the market like crazy. This thing, Vana, is also a layer one. And this is the project I actually recently longed, which is Alchemist AI. I do remember this project pumping hard into the AI pump on Solana. I actually longed this one because it already did a 2x since the bottoms yesterday. I do understand that most of the market, they would be sitting there thinking, wow, like this thing did a 2x. Most coins did not even recover. I probably should not long it and probably should be looking into something else. But I knew the data. Something actually was shown yesterday that a lot of AI Solana projects, they were one of the first to actually start to recover nicely. And that's why I decided to long essentially the strongest one. I've checked different one, I've checked AI16Z, they're not moving this much, right? Also, what was the narrative for me to long into this thing? If you would click at the perpetual top, you can also see that it's actually present on Binance, right? So it has the access to this thick Binance liquidity. What they are doing usually, what is the playbook? What they're doing? They take the asset that pumped, they enable leverage loan for them. Current holders, they start to short whales and they just start to dump heavily, right? Binance is buying out all of the supply in the bottoms, and then they push it on spot as well, if obviously the project survived and if they like it. Something like this might be happening here, we'll see. I do think that until something like this will be happening here, this thing would need to reach a higher market caps from these levels, but the movements of 2x is definitely something coordinated, I would say, at this stage. That's why I essentially longed myself, and that's why I am holding this thing. I'm probably somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 in profits since longing it probably like 40 minutes ago, right? We're seeing a textbook accumulation on this chart. This chart is a bit older. So essentially at this chart, we're at 0.025. My leverage loan entry was 0.027. Right now, we're actually at 0.036 almost. And 0.032 was the generational resistance point that we actually broke through already. And right after, this thing can actually be going to $60 million market cap easily. This is a 2x from here. And again, it's available on leverage. 2x on leverage is huge. Believe me, guys, it's huge. Because what you're getting, you can be getting illiquidatable position. You can be taken out of your margin. If you want, you can even increase the position, increase your exposure over time, right? But anyway, it's just quite good at this stage. You just leverage loan with low leverage. You just hold, get your 2x, you take your margin out, and you have free position, free exposure. This thing does 2, 3, 4, 5, 6x's more. You don't even have to hold anything there. Quite interesting, right? $65 million is the next key resistance. And on this chart, we can also see that previous key resistance was actually $32 million. And we just broke through it because we are higher at this stage. Very interesting situation. This thing is actually strong because this breakout happened over the last 2 to 3 hours. What's also nice about this thing is that team-controlled wallets actually increase supply. They increase supply from 13% to 16% over the case of the last couple months. Do you remember what I was actually telling you? The projects, especially the meme coins, that are going to do well are the ones that were able not to lose the amount of the share of the project they control, but actually the ones that were able to increase. And the reason why this thing is pumping is on some product news that are happening in the marketplace at this stage. I truly like this project the first time I was presented into it at the current levels, mainly because it's low market cap, it's available on leverage, it's on Binance, it's Binance playbook. I explained this to you 100%. It's up to you if you want to invest or not. I would say at this stage it might be quite risky for the high leverage at this stage. Should be doing quite well, because in terms of Solana AI projects that are available on leverage, that have Binance perps that they didn't rack, like Cerebro for example, and that actually recovering nicely and are strongest than most of the market since the recent dip. I even won't say you have any alternatives at this stage, to be honest. And last but not least, the thing that I actually just longed recently is Neiro. The coin, the meme coin, Neiro CTO, which is a Chinese version of the coin, it's around $150 million, $160 million in market cap currently. For some reason, I actually do think that it might be repeating the story of Pepe. I do think the narrative is just insane. I do think like the narrative is just way better than Peanut out there. It has crazy huge support from Chinese community, and that's why you don't probably even hear about it, right? But the price is still going up. Like it's still performing nicely in the current small bounce, small reversal that we're seeing on the marketplace, right? And I have seen it. I have seen the price action quite recently. It's quite insane that it actually dropped to 0.3 to exact bottoms of the range. And since then, it was up 25%. Most of the assets at this stage, they were up like 5, 7, 9% marks. I'm talking even about the large coins that everyone is talking about. This thing is quite strong. That's why I actually like it, and that's why I essentially long it. My goal is again to just build low leverage position on this one, make sure I won't get liquidated, and just hold it comfortably through the cycle. Do I think it will be reaching the market cap of Pepe? I don't think so at this stage, although it's from Binance Cabal, it's quite strong. If it will be reaching $2 billion in market cap, which is only 2x above the previous all-time high for this coin, right? It would already be somewhere around 12 to 13 x's from here, which on leverage is very, very tasty. I would take it any day, anytime. This is it, guys. We just went through the list of alts that are pumping currently, that are strong, that I think you should actually focus on. I mentioned IP 5 days ago. It's up more than 2x. I think a lot of the current assets that I'm talking about are actually going to be higher in quite some time. Situation of the marketplace is still uncertain, but profits are in uncertainty. Uncertainty is something why you're actually making profits. Uncertainty and risks. I would still advise caution and still advise to be safe, because the number one goal is to survive in this market. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Stay healthy and rich. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.